was talking to a friend the other day about mental illness, and I told him a story, something that happened to me. You know, I think everybody struggles a little bit with mental illness, and I kind of told him my story and what I dealt with a while back, and he's like, you should share that. You should share that on your channel. So let's talk about the time I was in Thailand, and I didn't think I'd make it out of here alive. I thought I'd be leaving in a box. What's up, guys? It's Greeny. So back in 2012, I had a trip planned to Thailand. It was over New Year's Eve, 2012 to 2013. And I had been going through, afterwards now I know it was anxiety. I didn't know what was going on, but I was really stressed out about something. And I had already planned this trip to Thailand. It was a pre-planned trip before I started worrying about what I was worrying about. If you guys are interested in this, leave me a message, and I can get all into what my problems were before this and what happened afterwards. But this is just basically about what happened here in Thailand when I was traveling. So I was really stressed out, and I was having some physical issues where I would get a sweat, or just that feeling of worrisome. Now later I know it was like little panic attacks. I was kind of having panic attacks, and it affected me physically. My heart would beat fast when I think about certain things, and it actually got to the point where when you fall asleep and your arms kind of get numb and tingly, like you slept on your arm, I would just wake up like that in the middle of the night, and my whole body would be tingly. So there were some physical effects to this issue I was worrying about, and I'll tell you about it later. Like I said, it's turned out to be something very stupid. So that's a whole nother story. But I had this trip planned to Thailand, and I was going with a buddy, and I didn't want to let him down, and I felt I was considering canceling. I just don't, something's not right. Maybe I need to go to the doctor. I don't know. It was just really, really odd. But yeah, maybe I need a vacation. Maybe that'll help me out. A couple of weeks off of work, just go to Thailand, relax. Maybe that'll help things. I didn't know I was working myself into the perfect storm of a mental breakdown. So what happened, I remember we got to the airport, and I remember I was just stressed out, and I'm the type of person that, now that I know more about anxiety and mental illness, that I always have that mind that's always thinking of stuff. My mind never shuts off. I think of a million business ideas, just different ideas of everything, just my mind never shuts off. I'm always rethinking things and thinking things over in my head and planning things or worrying about things. Just my brain never shuts off. My brain never quiets. You want a quiet brain sometimes. My brain never quiet. So we got to the airport, and I remember we had a couple Bloody Marys before the flight, and I think when you're going through kind of a mental issue, you're not supposed to drink, but I'm heading to Thailand. This is my vacation. Maybe this is going to help me just settle down, calm down. It was bad, but it wasn't totally overwhelming yet. So relaxed, maybe got a little bit of sleep on the airplane, and arrived in Bangkok. So maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 days before New Year's Eve. Spent 2 nights in a really nice hotel in Bangkok called the Silk Q. Used to be over near Terminal 21. They've moved now and rebuilt to a much nicer place, but that was my go-to. I like to stay at that place, comfortable bed. But I remember during this time too, I was also having a real hard time sleeping, and you think about the change of hours and the jet lag and everything coming to Thailand. Sometimes you just crash out. Sometimes you have a hard time sleeping. So those first 2 nights, maybe in 2 nights, I got 5-6 hours sleep in the first 2 nights. And I started, worrying about that a little bit, because I remember my first trip to Thailand, one of my buddies that came, he didn't sleep the first 2 or 3 days, and he was telling me he was almost hallucinating. He got real bad. Finally, he got some sleep and improved, but he had a real bad start to that trip. Well, we ended up going to Phuket for New Year's Eve. So left from Bangkok, went down to Phuket. I remember, I think that was my first time flying Nok Air to Phuket. And got down there and got to this hotel pretty close to the beach. And unbeknownst to me, my friend, the biggest techno festival ever in Southeast Asia was playing on the beach on New Year's Eve. And it was supposed to run from 10 at night till 3 in the morning, whatever the hours were. And I remember my first night trying to sleep in that hotel. We had went out, had a couple beers or whatever, and I got back to the hotel and you could hear the music. And it wasn't even New Year's Eve yet. It was like 2 days before or whatever. I don't remember the exact timeline, but I remember all 4 nights there, the music was going from 10 at night till 6 in the morning. Boom, 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 boom. You could hear that techno festival. Well, the first night, no sleep. I never fell asleep. So you're talking now 3 days in, maybe 5 or 6 hours sleep. And so I'm starting to really just not feel good. Just my heart racing, I don't know if you've ever had a panic attack, but it was starting to be more like that, feel more like that. Second night, same thing. Boom, boom, boom. I borrowed my friend had noise canceling headphones. I borrowed those and I tried to sleep and nothing, no sleep. So now we're talking after 2 nights. And we had that next day we had a big snorkeling trip going out to Phi Islands and doing all that. And I remember it was weird when I was snorkeling and I was underwater. I felt so calm, that felt so good that day. I'm like, oh man, that really relaxed me. And I found out later, when you're having panic attacks, whatever, get going in a shower, water helps you or something. I don't know, cold water, but that felt really good. But so on day 3, that was New Year's Eve. And of course, that's going to be going, that party's going to be crazy that night. Well, me and my buddy, we went, I think that was the first time we went to that walking street, Patong, was it Bangla Road, yeah. And we're in there and we're having an okay time, had a couple beers, and I just felt terrible. And I told my buddy, it's 11 o'clock, I said, I'm not gonna make it to New Year's. I'm just like this, no sleep, but I'm like this, I just couldn't sleep. I'm wired, and I told him, I said, I'm going back to the room. I can't deal with this, So he stays there, I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock at night. I go back to the room and I'm like, I gotta get some sleep or I'm gonna die. I'm starting to just I'm not quite hallucinating yet, but I'm starting to just really, really, really feel bad. And oh, by the way, if you leave me a message, if you guys are, want to hear this type of story, I can tell you what happened before and I can tell you about, what I've dealt with after this, because, like I said in the title, I didn't think I was going to make it home alive, but, a lot happened after this, and, just the whole rest of my life, I can talk more about mental illness and, how to cope and different things like that. If that's something of interest to you guys, leave me a message, let me know, make sure you subscribe to my channel, because I'll if you guys want, I'll make some more videos about this subject. It's probably pretty important. So I go back to the room, boom, 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 boom. Then midnight rolls around and I boom, 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 fireworks. I look out the window at the hotel, I can see fireworks everywhere. I remember that, and I remember just laying there all night, just wired, my mind running, and boom, boom, the music, and I got no sleep. So now we're talking 3 nights there. Barely any sleep in Bangkok. So I went to a medical facility, and I told my buddy, I gotta get something. I gotta get some heavy drugs or something to knock me out. This is just insane. And I didn't mention, but I already was taking blood pressure pills. So I had high blood pressure, probably caused more from anxiety, but diagnosed high blood pressure. Nobody ever talked to me about anxiety. I never thought about maybe I think too much or stress too much or worry too much. So I go to a clinic, over there somewhere in Phuket. I didn't go to the hospital. That was a real stupid error on my part. Just went to a doctor's office, one of those clinics, that treat people that fall off their motorbike and put a bandage on or something. There's a doctor there. They take my blood pressure and it's like 200 and something over like 100, 120. I don't know. It was high. They're like, dude, you need some blood pressure. I'm like, I take blood pressure medicine already. Well, you need more. You need this other hydro water, but whatever. They gave me something, and he's like, yeah, you need melatonin. This will help you sleep. Take some I said, I think I need I did some research. I forgot, like Ativan, like a benzo or just some hard narcotic. I'm like, I think no. You don't need that. You don't want to take that. You don't need that. Just take a melatonin. I'm like, all right. So I take some melatonin that night, and nothing. Didn't even make a dent. At this point, I'm so past it. I'm like just full. I mean, I'm like just walk around like a zombie. I mean, I was my blood pressure was going. My heartbeat was racing. I felt terrible. I mean, I really was starting to get really worried. I started looking into leaving early or going back home, and I'm like, I can't. There's no way I can fly home like this. There's no way. I mean, I'm in full blown. If you've never felt this, it's like you just can't control it. It like takes over your body. It's like So we were flying back to Pattaya, or we went from Bangkok there, and then we were flying to. I don't remember if we went back to Bangkok or that Pattaya airport. Anyways, we had a hotel for the rest of the trip in Pattaya, and I got there one night, and I'm like, I told my buddy, I gotta go to the hospital. I gotta go. I go to the hospital, so I go to this like local hospital in the city there, and they're like, no, you need to like go to Bangkok hospital. They have like psychiatry there. You need to talk to that, and so I go to Bangkok hospital, and I go in there, and I swear, I mean, I was in rough shape. I thought they might admit me, you know what I mean? But first they had me go talk to the psychiatrist. And he's like, you know what? This happens more than you would believe. People come here and the jet lag and different things. I told him about the music. He goes, oh my God, that's like the perfect storm. He goes, people come here and they can't sleep. And they end up kind of going crazy. They got to go to the hospital and this and that. He's like, but you're really, like, you should have came before. I'm like, yeah, I just got here. I went to the doctor. They didn't help me. And so he's like, all right. He gave me Valium. He goes, take this right now. Like, give me Valium, and that calmed me down a lot. My heart. He gave me a prescription of Valium and gave me Ativan, which is a benzodiazepine, I think, called something like that, benzo. And he's like, take 2 of these, 2 milligrams, and usually you take, I guess, one. I have it, I keep that medication now in case I ever feel like I'm feeling like that. I might take one maybe a couple times a year, once a month, something like that. You take like 1 milligram, but he's like, take 2 milligrams. So I remember at the hotel that night in Pattaya, I took 2 of those. And I mean, let me tell you, at this point, I mean, I thought I was dying. I didn't think I was going to make it back to America. I thought I was going to die, really. I mean, but I took 2 of those, and literally I slept 14 hours. 14 hours I was asleep. Like, it was. And I woke up, and that helped. But I still felt like, like just paranoid, and I mean, I think that was what I needed to get me home to America. But I mean, I went that day, and I told my buddy, I was like, dude, I gotta get the fuck out of here. I gotta go. I don't know. I gotta go home. I can't stay here. This is just, So I booked my flight, and. I couldn't get a flight till like the next day or 2. It was a couple more days I was there, but I remember just sitting in that room. I couldn't go out. I couldn't do anything. I was just in pure just panic stage. And I remember the next day, I took that medication in and I slept, and so I started feeling a little bit better. My boy's like, see, I told you not to book your flight home early. I'm like, no, dude, I need help. Something's not right. I was already kind of feeling crazy a little bit before I came here, like worrying about us, tell you about that later, but just in a kind of a panic, and this was a perfect storm to put me over the edge. I guess it was like a mental breakdown, I guess. I mean, I don't know it was definitely like a panic attack, but I don't know what a mental breakdown is, having a nervous breakdown or something. I don't think it was like that. Like, I've never been depressed or anything like that, but this anxiety thing really affects me, and probably my family, and due to work history, different things. I'll talk about that later if you guys are interested in this. But anyways, I get back to America, make an emergency appointment with where my regular doctor. He referred me to a shrink in that office there, his big office building, big thing, and talked to them, and got fixed. Rest is history. We can talk about that later. But anyways, that's my story, man. If you ever start feeling like that, like don't wait so long like I did. Like go see somebody and get some treatment, because you know, who knew that I'd be coming to Thailand where there's a techno festival with booming music and just be like impossible for me to sleep. I mean, it was just, I mean, I did lose it. I think I did lose it. I mean, it was not I mean, when my buddy sees this video, who was with me, he's gonna be like, oh yeah, I remember that. That was, dude, you were just fucking nuts. Pure panic. So, all right, guys, you know, if you enjoyed this video, just a little honesty about my, you know, being a little kind of a mental midget sometimes. I think everybody goes through these type of things, but leave me a message, let me know, give me a thumbs up, make sure you subscribe to my channel, and maybe we'll talk more about this. I'm heading to Cambodia this weekend, so probably be having Cambodia content next. But I'll come back to my my pea brain, talk about my plight of mental illness, which is really just anxiety issues. Anxiety is the only issues I've had. All right, guys, Greeny out.